Hello my family. We have spent the last couple videos together basically prepping and canning, and it's been a little bit since we've been creating any meals in our kitchen. Today's video is going to be just that. I felt like spending some time with you in the kitchen. We are going to be doing two different styles of supper tonight for us. It's basically going to come down to his and hers. One thing I actually enjoy the fact that we do this is because just like each and every one of you who have joined this family, everybody's different. Not everybody is low carb, not everybody is Mediterranean, but together we're a mighty family. So with me, I'm on the Mediterranean, but with my husband, he's on low carb due to diabetes. So on this channel, you get the best of both worlds and then some. I will tell you that this channel will always stay in its lane. I'm always going to stay on topic to where we're at. Gardening, homesteading, making things that are usable for our home. DIY basically, like the paperless paper towels I had showed you. Little things like this around the homestead that will help you in your everyday living. We're going to be creating meals and learning how to use some of the things that we produce, and canning and preserving. All of this in the homesteading lifestyle and prepping. This is where this channel will continue to stay. I enjoy being able to do this. This is my everyday life, and honestly, I just thought I'd share with you to see if what my life may do to help others. So today we're going to spend some time in the kitchen because frankly I've missed spending that one-on-one with you creating meals. Now let me tell you what we're going to make. On my husband's side, I am going to be making a low-carb version of beef stew. In our case, it's going to be venison stew. And when I get to making this, I will include every detail that you need that you can make your own stew with. And on top of that, what stew isn't good without a dinner roll? However, for a diabetic, a dinner roll can be pretty devastating unless it's made low carb or keto version, and I have that recipe that we're going to try today. So I am making him a beef or venison stew with his own dinner rolls. And as for me, now somebody had asked me about the cannellini beans that I make that are garlic parmesan from the recipe book Keto Dish, or not Keto Dish, Mediterranean Dish, excuse me. I am actually going to be making that today because I am having a baked salmon with those beans tonight, and then I am going to be sauteing up some yellow squash with parmesan. So that's going to be my meal. Now I'm not going to do the whole entire meal with you. I am going to do the beans especially, and I will probably walk you through on what I'm going to do for my salmon. So I'm going to get prepared here, and we're going to start with my husband's supper first because this is going to have to take all day to cook down, make, and then we're going to make his dinner rolls, and I'm going to walk this with you. So let's hit the kitchen and let's have some fun, y'all. Okay, as I've stated, now we're going to make his beef. However, I'm using venison. When you make this stew, basically this stew can be used with any form of beef roast that you would prefer or like. You can use a venison, any of this will work. Now my broth that I'm going to be using, and I am going to be using my homemade, home canned beef stock. You can use beef broth, you can use beef stock, homemade or store-bought, it doesn't matter. So I am actually going to be using my own homemade flavor. I'm going to be adding seasonings, and this is going to be set aside, allowing it to cook for the entire day, to break down, to soften, and to be able to be prepared. Now I will tell you after we put this together, the other ingredients that will be added to this stew that are safe for a diabetic. This way you all will know there will be no specific recipe. This is like Mediterranean, you add it and you go and you eat. So follow this if you want to. I will give you a list of the ingredients, maybe not so much the amounts, but I will give you the list of ingredients that you can write down and add your own stew. When it comes to the dinner rolls, I will absolutely give you the recipe for that. Again, please know that this is not my recipe. This recipe will be from KETOSERTS. It is her pull-apart keto bread, and that's what we're going to be using so that he can have dinner rolls tonight. So I will always give her credit, or anybody else that I use their recipes. And yes, I may use recipes, y'all. I may come up with my own thing. Right now, I'm living in a world that I have to learn how to be able to do things like, for me, maintain my weight without gaining it back after coming off of low carb, and for my husband to stay on low carb, to be able to control his type 2 diabetes without medication like we've been doing for 2 months. I have maintained my weight. Now, I started this out at 158. Like I told you before, I did quit smoking, and I have gained up to 165. But I've been maintaining that. I'm 5'11". I've been maintaining 165 for 2 months. That, to me, on top of quitting smoking, I'm proud of. So I'm happy with this. So I'm going to continue to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to show you how we're doing it as well. So first we're going to go and start this beef stew. I'm going to call it beef stew, and I will be setting you up so that you can see how we're doing this. Okay, you all, so let's get started. This will be our beef stew. Now again, I told you I am using my home canned beef. This is my beef stock. I am going to be adding at least 1 quart right now. I got a second jar just in case, which I may actually use that because this is going to be cooking all day. So I'm going to add it to this. Now the meat, I have a good size venison roast. I'm going to say this thing is about 4 to 5 pounds cut up in 1-inch chunks. So, and part of this meat, actually, this whole thing isn't going to stay in here. And then I could choose to actually do this whole roast and then divide it up and freeze it for other meals for my husband. And I may end up doing that. But I'm going to go ahead and add this at the moment. Now, I am going to go ahead and add probably a pint this time. So it's going to be 1 quart and 1 pint of my beef stock. Now, I did get a quart, so I will be right back while I bring back a pint. Okay, y'all. Now, this beef stock that I did, I was actually blessed by somebody who gave me some kettle bones. This doesn't always happen for me, or I would have definitely turned around and did a video on this one. If I get that blessing again, I will tell you, I will show you how to make your own beef stock. It's amazing to have that bone marrow. And this is the best thing you can ever eat. So I'm going to go ahead and start this right now. I currently have the stove set for 350 degrees, preheating for our dinner rolls, actually. So to this, I am going to add some fresh oregano that I had grown from the garden. We're going to add flavor to this meat while it sits and basically cooks down. I am going to add some basil to this, and go by your taste, y'all. Later on, after these flavors start heating up and marrying together, taste it. If you need some more salt, more pepper, more other seasonings, add it. That's basically Mediterranean. This is what we do. This one is not a recipe, it's just ingredients set for your flavor taste. Now I'm going to be adding a bay leaf to this. This was actually blessed to me as well, as I was giving somebody's homegrown bay leaves, and then I dehydrated it, and I still have these, and they're amazing, y'all. The flavors I get from them too. So I'm going to add 1 and a small one to this. Now I'm going to add some salt, because in my broth in any of my broths or any of my canning, I do not add salt or anything like that. I will do that, like I've told you, and this is a good example. When I do my cooking, this is when I'll add most of my seasonings. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add some salt to this, and then some fresh ground pepper. I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to let this simmer for a couple hours after I incorporate all the seasonings in here together. I'm going to allow the meat to become tender. Now I'm also going to add one other flavoring, and I'm going to add some wedges of onions right now. My vegetables literally will come later. Right now I'm working on flavoring this meat and tenderizing it. Okay, so now here we have this. Now I'm going to stir this all together. Get all my seasonings in here. I've got my stove set for cooking, and we're going to let this, first I'm going to bring this up to a boil to get it started. I'm going to drop the temperature and allow this to simmer all day long until the meat tenderizes and that flavor starts building up in this broth. You can actually put this in a slow cooker if you wanted to do that instead of putting it on your stove. I probably should have done that, but I'm wanting to do this video as well, so I'm going to go ahead and allow this to cook on my stove. I'm looking for my lid. Now I'm going to cover this up. Now, because this is going to take all day, and I'm not going to hold you on this video all that time, I will tell you what I am going to be putting in this stew, what is safe for a diabetic if you are doing this for that. And if you are anybody else who doesn't have any restrictions and you're looking at a good idea for a stew, beef stew, venison, or whatever, and I'm also going to add some garlic in here, y'all. Anything I could think of for flavor boosting, so we're going to do that too. But the vegetables that we're putting in here, I'm going to give you a list. For those who are on low carb and have to watch for diabetes, turnips. Do not put potatoes. You can put turnips in here. You can put parsnips in here, rutabagas. Any of those will absolutely work. If you watch carefully, you probably could add some carrots. I would minimize the carrots, use it just for coloring and flavoring. You can add basically any type of vegetable you wanted. You can add some bell pepper if you wanted to this, but basically a stew is basically meat, carrots, and potatoes. So in this case, we're eliminating the potatoes, we're replacing it with a different root vegetable, and we are making this low carb. So this will turn out to be an exceptionally safe meal for you. Those who with no restrictions, again, you can add potatoes and carrots and anything you would like. Can you can this? Absolutely. Now, I will tell you, as far as canning this, first, let me get my garlic here so I can get this cooking. Canning this. After you get this meat cooked down, you want to be able to keep this broth. That's absolutely fine too. There is actually nothing in here that is going to harm you, except for the fact you do need to pressure cook this. Now, I would probably suggest, if you were going to do a beef stew in a jar, I would pre-cook, sear the meat instead of making it tender from here and this way. Sear your meat and get it partially cooked, because in the pressure cooker you're going to cook this for at least 90 to 95 minutes in a quart jar, 70 to 75 minutes in a pint jar. So these are the ingredients you can add to it. After you cook your meat partially, you will add that to your jar. You will use your beef broth as your base, 1-inch headspace. Your onions and all your seasonings can go in your jar. They are safe to use. So yes, you can literally do this. Do not add any thickener to it to make a gravy. If you're going to do that, use your thickener last. That's exactly what I will be doing to this for his stew. Or you can make this into a beef soup. So if you were doing a meal in the jar, you can absolutely use this recipe right here for a meal in a jar. Just do it wisely is all I can say. And that's basically anybody's preference to how you choose it. These are just ideas, and this is just a basic recipe. Now, as far as my garlic, this will tenderize and cook down in this all day. So I'm just going to mash my garlic to add the oils out in this and distribute it through the liquid. And now I am going to let this cook all day. I'm going to bring it up to temp, drop it to simmer, and this is going to cook all day. In the meantime, we're getting ready to make the pull-apart bread. Okay, y'all, let's get started on making our pull-apart bread. So, naturally that I have learned from her, I go half and half. Now, she does give weighed in scale amounts to the recipe along with the American Standard measurements. I have learned when it comes to the flour bases, that is what I am going to weigh. When it comes to the seasonings, at that point, that is what I'm going to just basically go by American Standard. So, but I will give you both like I have. So the first thing I'm going to need is Vital Wheat gluten. It says here 175 grams or 1 cup. So I'm going to take this and measure out 175 grams. Go ahead and get my spoon here. And then we'll just go ahead and weigh this out. So I said some of these things, it says like 1 cup, but when I measure this out, it doesn't exactly look like 1 cup to me. This is the reason why I've learned to basically go by weighing, because she's from the UK, so it makes sense for the weighing amount to come in. And we're almost there. Okay. Just a hair over. I'm going to pull that out. $175. Okay. So there's our Vital Wheat gluten. The next ingredient is coconut flour. And we're going to use 56 grams of coconut flour or a half a cup. Now I have tried, and the reason I measure mine, and this is totally up to you, I have tried it by the standard cups. It doesn't always work, so I don't know, it could be just the product, I'm not quite sure, but I go by this now. So I'm going to use 56 grams of coconut flour. Ooh, just about spot on. That's it. Slightly over. All right. We have 56 grams of coconut flour. And that's going to be the only thing that I measure from here on through. So I'm going to need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, or in this case 6 grams of baking powder to 1.5 teaspoons. So I'm just going to go by standard measurements from here. So we got 1. There's 1.5. All right. And go ahead and bring this here and get this out of the way now. And bring my bowl around. We're going to use 1 tablespoon of powdered substitute sugar. Use anything that you choose, whether it be erythritol, whatever, monk fruits, swerve, any of those. Use your preference. I need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I use Himalayan sea salt like always. Optional, and I am choosing not to add it, would be 1/4 teaspoon of xantham gum if you choose to do that. And then I need 2.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And then I'm going to mix all of my dry ingredients together. There's my 2.5 teaspoons. And I'm going to mix this together. And I have to bring my liquids up, so I have 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of melted butter, which in what she had for weight would be 60 grams of melted butter. It just comes out to be 4 tablespoons. And then 300 milliliters, which comes out to be a 1.25 cups of warm unsweetened almond milk. So I need to bring that up, and you want your temp between 105 to 110 degrees. So I need to bring that up so that I can add it to this mix. Okay, y'all, so we have our 4 tablespoons of butter melted. We're going to add that to our milk. Now I did cool this down a bit before I added it, not to overheat our milk. Our milk has been brought up to temp of 110 degrees. I'm just going to mix this all together, and I'm going to add it to my mixture. Then we're going to mix this all together and form our dough. Incorporate all the dry ingredients, have this form into a nice dough that we can work with, because we will now be kneading this for 2 to 3 minutes. But I want to be able to incorporate and absorb all of that liquid into our flour bases to make our bread. This again will taste like a whole wheat version. Now some may not like coconut flavoring. This doesn't have that much. I mean, it kind of smells like it does, but then if you think about it, you'd be making more like a Hawaiian bread at that point for this to go with that stew, which by the way is starting to smell really good, y'all. So I have my ingredients together. So now I'm going to set my timer. I like to make sure that I do this exactly as the recipes say when it comes to kneading the bread. So I'm going to actually set this for 3 minutes. And we're going to start kneading our bread. Make sure I hit that, yep. So we're just going to bring this together. This is going to activate the gluten, which is in the vital wheat gluten. It's also going to make sure that all of our ingredients have been absorbed with all of our liquid. So I will be right back with you while I just continue to knead this bread and work with it. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, y'all, so now I've got this kneaded out. The gluten's been activated. Now I'm going to take and cut this into 16 different pieces. Two. Roll this out just a little bit more because I want to get this 8 even across this way, and then I'm going to be doing these in half. Four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll do it like this. 18 pieces, so, or 16 pieces. I'm going to need a parchment lined 8x8 pan. This one here is slightly bigger, but it will work. And I'm actually going to spray this down just, well, no, I don't need to. Not on this one. So we're just going to line this up. I want to get 16 pieces in here, or as close to 16 as I can get. So we're going to go ahead and do this at this point. I'm going to take and cut my pieces, make them into a round ball, stick them into my parchment papered pan, and we will be right back as soon as we get all 16 set up. Okay, so we have now our 16 pieces. At this point, we're going to take this and put it aside, allow this to proof in a warm place for 1 hour, or until it doubles in size. So once this one comes to that point, that's when we'll get it ready and get it set for the oven. In the meantime, we're going to go to our next dish, which is going to be on our Mediterranean side, is doing our cannellini bean recipe that somebody had asked for, and I don't mind sharing this at all. It's actually a very lovely dish, and I think it would be enjoyed by many. So let me get this set up, put this in the proofer, and we'll get our beans started. Okay, y'all, so now we're going to go with the garlic parmesan cannellini beans. Now I will tell you, this is my go-to side. You can have this as a side dish, you can have this as a main for lunch. One of the key factors in Mediterranean is fiber. Not only are beans full of fiber, but they're great for protein. One of the things about beans that is encouraged, basically, pretty much if you can, daily or at least quite a few times in the week, is it helps cut down on belly fat. And that's the one thing I am watching, because the carbs can put fat on my belly. Beans will help keep me to where it's not as heavy on my stomach. It fills me up, for one, and with the fiber and everything, it just works in this beautiful balance. So, and I'm not really fond of beans, but I have loved this recipe. A cannellini bean is really nothing but a white kidney bean. Now, if I can honestly find the dry ingredients, I would be canning my own. But unfortunately, they're extremely hard to find unless I ordered them on Amazon. But I can get them at Walmart at 78 cents a can. So I've been stocking my pantry with those, getting a little each week, like I've been encouraging you all. When I get the money, I buy a couple cans, and I will store them on my pantry because I need them for now and for this winter. This is an exceptionally big pan. I'm currently trying to find a smaller one, but I happen to like this pan. It's my enamel cast iron, so we're going to be using this one to make this dish. So I am going to set this on medium high, and I am first going to be adding about a tablespoon or so of olive oil. Just kind of coat my pan just a little bit here. I use extra virgin olive oil, by the way. And the kind that I'm using, which actually turns out to be authentic, it's about $1.96 at Walmart. It is the Partana's. This is really good, y'all. It's got that vibrant, oh my gosh, it's got that fruity flavor of an olive, yet at the same time has that slight burn in the back of your throat, that peppery flavor. This is the best to me. Between this and California Ranch, I prefer this brand. So, but I will use California Ranch as well. Both have a harvest date. Both are authentic oils. They're not mixed with soy or any other type of oils that should not be in an olive oil. It is absolutely authentic. So now I'm going to let this come to the point where it just heats up, not to a smoking point, but where just I can see it dancing a little bit in my pan. In the meantime, I am going to chop up and mince 3 cloves of garlic. Now you can go 2 if you prefer. Recipe says for 3 to 4. I prefer to like my garlic a lot, so, and these are good sized cloves, so this will equal out to about 4. And I'm just going to go ahead and mince this. I'm going to turn this down just slightly more. When it comes to garlic, I really don't like to sear my garlic to a brown point because it makes it bitter. I just want to release those flavors. So I'm now going to add my garlic to my pan. Y'all, when I tell you this is the best bean recipe I have ever tasted, this is the best. Okay, so now that I add this, I'm going to release those oils in here, and we're going to get this heated up, and then I will be adding our beans. Now, the cannellini beans, it's calling for 1 15-ounce can. You want to drain those and rinse them. I like to rinse all the starches off of it. It helps remove some of that. Even though it's still a low glycemic, I like to remove the starches because we are incorporating a complex carb, but the less I put in my body, the better off. So I do rinse mine. Now I'm going to go ahead and add our beans. I'm going to mix this all together. Now, one thing about beans, and I've noticed that with the garbanzos versus my home canned, these are particularly not fully cooked yet, so when I add the next ingredient, it will help break this down and cook just a little bit longer, which makes them that perfect flavor at the end of this. So I'm mixing this all in together at the moment, getting these seasoned up really good. And now I'm going to be adding a 1/2 cup of water, and I'm going to bring this to a boil. Turn my heat up to medium-low now. Or actually medium-high. I had it on medium-low. I put it on medium-high. Now I'm going to bring this up to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and cover this to bring it up there, and then once I get this done, I will bring this right back with you. Okay, so we brought this up to a boil. We're going to now add our seasonings and our other ingredients. I am adding salt and pepper to this. This is to taste. There's no specific amount to this. Like I said, a lot in the Mediterranean diet is basically to taste. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle this with Himalayan sea salt. I'll be adding some halved tomatoes to this. Again, Mediterranean cooking is a lot of vegetables and a lot of color. You can add as much tomatoes as you want to yours. I'm going to do one more. And we're going to allow that to cook with those. I'm going to mix this all together. Okay, so now I'm also going to be adding some quarter teaspoon of cumin. Again, this is from the Mediterranean dish. And then she uses a seasoning which I can purchase, 1 teaspoon of Alapo pepper. I do not have that seasoning, so what I have learned, the Alapo pepper is like a combination of paprika with, or smoked paprika basically, with some red pepper flakes. So that's actually what I am going to be doing. I'm going to be taking about 1/8 of a teaspoon or so of red pepper flakes to a 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, and I am going to be using my home preserved paprika. If I can find what I have done with that. I lost it, y'all. There it is. Okay. Real time. That's what I get, real time. So I'm using a 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Or not red pepper, but homegrown and dehydrated paprika. And you could add a nice smoky flavor to this. They would absolutely work. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and let this cook down. I want to decrease some of this liquid in here. It's going to have these beans absorbing this flavor. So once I get this cooked down, I will come back and we will add the rest of the ingredients to make this dish just pop. Now I am going to go ahead and do this now. I am going to add some lemon zest to mine because I like that extra lemony flavor, along with lemon juice. And that is 1 whole lemon to this dish. So I want to make sure that I'm absolutely correct on that. Yes, it's juice of 1 lemon. So I'm also going to add the zest. Like I said, I like that lemony flavor to these beans. I don't know what it is, but it is absolutely fantastic taste to these. And I'm thinking that's why I love it so much, mixed with that garlic and that parmesan. It's just wow. And this will not take long for these beans to absorb all that liquid, just so y'all know. This dish within 10 to 20 minutes is done. It's one of those quick meals, and you can use it, like I said, as a side or any way you prefer. So I added this, and I'm going to zest the rest of this here. Right now I'm going to go ahead and add my juice. Add this all the way through it. There's something about the flavor of Mediterranean food that just makes taste just pop in your mouth. It's like, wow. It's so hard to describe, but man, oh man, is it good. I feel like I'm in the tropics or in a faraway land every time I eat. I like to squeeze as much as my lemon and get it out as possible. Alright, now I'm going to mix this all together. And I'm going to now allow this liquid, or for my beans to absorb this liquid, and at that point we will be back to finish this dish. Okay, so now I brought you a little bit closer because when I start adding these next ingredients, you're going to understand by looking at this what I mean, how colors just vibrantly come out of these dishes. It's such an eye-appealing invitation, and it just entices you. Now at this point, these beans have absorbed some of this liquid. I have a very nice silky texture to this. And I am going to be adding just slightly more olive oil, not too much more, just to get that glisten look to my beans. Now Susie in the Mediterranean dish uses I forget the name of it. It's a different type than Parmesan. I only have Parmesan cheese. I do not have the other type, Romano or anything like this. So I am going to be adding at this point now about a 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese to this dish. I'm just going to sprinkle this in here and get that melted down. And I have some left over to sprinkle on it afterwards. And then I am going to be adding some fresh garden raised parsley to this dish as well. So now I'm going to chop up my fresh parsley. And I'm going to be using some of my stems and all. Now I'm going to bring this down to a simmer because technically this meal is done, although I'm not ready for it. I will end up reheating this up later. But I wanted to add this to you while we're still waiting on the bread. And then this stew is cooking up for hubby for the day as well. So this just helps me finish my meal a lot sooner this evening, as I really want to go to the gym. So, and it's been a couple days, I need to go. So now I'm going to add this, and then I can add some more if I feel like I need to. So I'm going to bring this down to actually off. And there it is, y'all. That is my dish. Now I could add some more of this, and I'm going to bring you a lot closer so that you can see what this dish looks like. The best amazing bean dish I have ever tasted. So let me bring you closer. Look how beautiful this dish is, y'all. And it tastes just as good as it looks. We'll set you up and we'll get ready for the next steps. Okay, y'all, so we're still waiting for our low-carb bread to continue to rise. One thing you will know, though, there are a lot of videos that show us amazing different dishes and cooking and everything. The one thing I try to do is not just create a dish and that would be my video. I would like to be able, which I'm struggling to find, especially in the areas that we are in, special categories such as low carb or even Mediterranean. I will find one dish made in a lot of different areas. What I rarely find is a complete meal. Complete meals are where most of us struggle. Although we may not say it, we do struggle as what do we serve? Okay, I have this and I have this, so I'm going to think in my head, what can I put together? That's what I do. I try to create meals out of bits and pieces here and there that I can share. And then what I end up doing is I will come on here and I will share that meal with you. Because we'd all like to be able to sit down to a meal without having to stress so bad is what can I do? So this is the reason why if I don't continue to or be able to show you my complete meal, I will at least give you some ideas to go with this. Such as, we are already done the beef stew and we know that's going to cook all day. And I also told you the ingredients we can add into it. Now we have a complete meal like that. But no meal at this point, from what we're used to in our world, is having a bread source. Only to a type 2 diabetic, that could be devastating. So this is where we created a low carb dinner roll. Now I do need to tell you, let me find that recipe because I do need to tell you the stats to that and the macros to this. I did write these down for you as well. So it comes out to, this yields about 16 pieces per piece. It has 1.7 grams of net carbs, 1.6 grams of fiber, 1.8 grams of fat, 6.4 grams of protein, and 76 calories. Now that is per dinner roll. So you're looking slightly less than 2 grams per dinner roll. That's enough to have your stew and your bread, and that's a complete meal. Now, on my side, we had just did the side dish of these cannelli beans. Granted, you can make this, if you were doing this for lunch, you can have it just for lunch with a side piece of bread to dip in it. Tastes amazing. I've done that. Or you can use it as a side dish, to which I'm going to tonight with my recipe is I'm going to be having about a 4-ounce size piece of salmon, and I'll be using this as my side, and probably using some sauteed yellow squash, or even baked with some garlic and parmesan with this, and that is going to be my meal. I have my vegetables, I have my fiber bean source, and I have my protein with healthy fats. With that, I may even add an avocado with the side of my yellow squash. So what I am going to be doing with my salmon, however, is I will be adding, now in my husband's stew, instead of adding carrots, I am going to be adding green beans to his, and some turnips. With that same aspect of the turnip, or the green beans, with my salmon, I'm going to be baking my salmon with a garlic mix. Let me get to the recipe and I'll show you, kind of give you an idea of these ingredients that I'm going to be using for flavoring my salmon with. It will be salt, pepper, thyme, oregano, and some garlic. That's what I'm going to be seasoning my salmon with, on top of sprinkling it with some olive oil. I can wrap that up in aluminum foil if I want to, and I'm going to be adding some green beans and tomatoes to it. Then I'm going to be sauteing up my yellow squash and serving it with my beans. That is an amazing, beautiful dish put together, healthy, a lot of vegetables like the Mediterranean diet is, and a complete meal. Complete meals are hard, y'all, so I'm trying to, if I don't get to show you, I want to be able to at least share with you what kind of complete meals you can make and give you some ideas. So I'm hoping these are helping you. If they're not, please just let me know. I try to incorporate as much ingredients as I can to make a complete meal. If you haven't noticed already, most all of my videos are complete meal videos, what we're having for supper that night. So I am going to now wait for this bread to finish rising, and we will come back and finish this off. I had to show y'all a little pop-up surprise we've been getting. These just started for us about 3 days ago. These little power packers are our quail eggs. Our babies are now maturing and we are starting to get eggs. We currently found out we have 11 hens, so that'll be almost a dozen. Once they all start laying, well, that'll be almost a dozen eggs a day. Now, what am I going to do with something this tiny? Did you know that about 4 of these little eggs equal out? Now, these are my jumbos, by the way, but basically even a standard. 4 to 6 of these. Now, jumbo is 4. Standard is anywhere from 5 to 6. They equal 1 egg, 1 whole egg. So I will say a little bit about these things and why I chose to have quail eggs. These are considered, and I've mentioned this before, but these are considered superfood, y'all. They have power packing minerals and vitamins, and they have immune boosters. They have just so much benefits to them, and protein. If there was only one downfall, I would say, is they are slightly higher in cholesterol. But it don't take much for these to even have a super, actually, power lunch or snack. These are perfect snackables. What I am actually going to do is, after I gather up enough of these, I'm going to be hard boiling them. And I will be I'm going to be working with a recipe that we liked a couple years ago. It was like a sweet version of a brine, kind of like a sweet heat brine for quail eggs. If I can recreate that recipe using sugar substitute, because these did sit in the fridge, if I can recreate that recipe, I will definitely be sharing it with you because it was so worth it. Now, if you don't have quail eggs, you can actually use a chicken egg for that same brine. But I'm going to try it with the quail eggs, and when I do, I will be sharing that video with you because that was an unbelievable flavor. It had onions and all that. It was just an amazing brine I have never seen before. So once I get enough of these up, I will be making that as well. So you can look forward to this video coming soon. Okay, so our bread has come to, or our dinner rolls basically, they have come to double in size. Now I'm going to take an egg yolk, which I'd beaten. Now this is my farm fresh. That's the reason why the yolks are so much darker. But I am going to brush each of my little biscuits with the egg yolk, and then we're going to bake this in a 350-degree oven for 35 to 40 minutes. After this, now I'm going to do one extra step because he likes that buttery flavor. So I'm going to butter my tops after they come out of the oven. So I'll have that set aside too. And in the meantime, I'm just going to brush these tops right here gently. And you will not be making these into perfect little circles or nothing like that, y'all. Just know that. These kind of grainy, I guess you could say. And I'm going to say that's due to the coconut flour more than likely. Now, I've never tried this. We're going to try it and see what it's like. And the recipe did say the amount of sugar that was added, if you want it sweeter, you can actually add more. I didn't tend to. I mean, some bread can be okay to be sweet, but I don't know, some just ain't. So now we got these brushed. I'm going to pop these in the oven, and we're going to set our timer for 35 minutes. And then we're going to go from there. So we're going to start with 35 minutes. Like I said before, I always start with the lower, and then I will add if I need to. So in 35 minutes, we will check on our bread and see where we're at. Okay, y'all, so our little biscuits are done, and I have brushed them with butter to give them that buttery flavor. I am actually going to pull one of these apart. I've never done this before. Again, I do a lot of these recipes with you. I get these bright ideas, and I guess I do them with you because we're going to find out. If we're going to do this, we're going to find out together. Does this work or does this not? So I test a lot of these out so that I can create these meals for you. So let's go ahead and pull one of these apart. They are warm. They just came out of the oven, just like hot bread. And amazingly, that pulled apart better than I thought it would. It even looks like a biscuit right now, or a dinner roll actually. So let me get this cooled down first, and then we'll pull this apart. Okay, y'all, so let's try this. I pulled this apart and it's still steaming, but can you see that texture in this? Just like having a dinner roll. I am definitely going to try this. Now I'm going to dip this in butter. I'm not going to eat too much of this, but I definitely want to try it. I mean, if I'm going to make this and he's going to eat it, I'm going to try it. I already know the expectations that nothing's going to be the exact same thing, but let's try it. Okay. So, to give my review. Alright, so my review on the dinner rolls. Have we had better? Yes. Will this work? Absolutely. Okay, so the texture and the flavor I have, it's kind of slightly chewy. I'm going to assume that is due to the vital wheat gluten. It has a slight taste of sweetness. Of course, we did add sugar substitute and the coconut flour. I can see this working with a nice sauce that it would absorb a sauce or a gravy. I could see it absolutely working with these. I could see this working with a turkey gravy and cauli mashed potato. I'm going to give you a few dishes that this recipe would actually work with. And yes, there are other recipes. Again, like I told you all, I keep trying till I find that right one. Would I make this often? Probably not. But will it work? Yes. I mean, the options that we have out here for low carb are hard enough, and not everybody, you gotta understand, not everybody wants to give up breads. They want to be able to still enjoy their life, and that's what I'm for. I'm here testing these things out because not a lot of people have the time and opportunity, nor do they know where to even go. I do. So once I find these ideas, I will try them. If I've tried them and I say I'm not fond of them, you can make that choice up to you. But most of the time, a lot of people trust my instincts. They've already tried the food that I've made, so they pretty much know that I'm not going to steer them wrong. So on this one here, it will work. It's not the best, but for what we're doing tonight, this should work good. So I will find more out when hubby turns around and gives me his review, but I think he'll be okay with these, at least for tonight. So that's my opinion on that recipe. I will add it in the description below just in case you do want to try this. And in the meantime, that will conclude this video. I have explained what we are having for supper. I am now getting ready to add my turnips to this pot because our meat is now tender. I'm going to be adding our green beans, putting this on a very low simmer, and by the time hubby gets off work, dinner will be done. And I will be taking some of that liquid aside because right now it's more like a beef soup. I'll be pulling some of that liquid aside using xantham gum and thickening it up to make a gravy, and dividing this up into a beef with gravy mixture for him and a soup base. So I get a couple meals out of this pot, so I'm okay with that. So I'm hoping that you enjoyed being in the kitchen with me. We do have some other ideas coming up. Y'all, I'm always coming up with something. I'm always busy with something. So I always can come up with new ideas for videos. That isn't an issue. There may be times that I will use it like this. I'm finding that Monday through Friday is probably my best times to be making my videos, and I will be off from making videos on Saturdays and Sundays. I think it works out better for all of us in the end, and this way it gives you the weekend to catch up to all the videos throughout the entire week. And I don't overload everybody because, like I said, I've always got something I'm doing. So until then, I love each and every one of you, and we will get together again, and I will see you then. In the meantime, much love from Parton's Heritage Homestead.